It starts early. While other kids are fully inside the moment, you're somewhere slightly outside it, watching, noticing things nobody asked you to notice, carrying questions nobody around you seemed to be asking. There's a particular kind of child who grows up feeling like they arrived in the wrong era, the wrong classroom, maybe even the wrong family. Not better, just different in a way that's hard to name and harder to explain. And then adulthood comes, and you expect the feeling to finally dissolve. You expect to find your people, to land somewhere that fits. But the feeling doesn't dissolve. It just changes shape. Now you're in rooms full of people your own age and you still feel the gap. Still find yourself exhausted by conversations that feel too light. Still gravitating toward people decades older than you or toward solitude, because both feel more honest than pretending the gap isn't there. Psychology has more to say about this than most people realize. 1. You processed difficulty early, and it aged you in ways that don't show on the outside. Psychologists who study what's called post-traumatic growth, the deepening that can happen after hardship, consistently find that people who encountered complexity, loss, or emotional weight, young, develop a kind of psychological maturity that their peers simply haven't had reason to build yet. You didn't choose to grow up faster. Something asked it of you, and you answered. 2. Your relationship with time is fundamentally different. Most people live horizontally, moving through days, weeks, plans, distractions. You live vertically. You are always aware of depth, of what's beneath the surface of a moment, of what a conversation or a season of life actually means in the larger arc. That kind of temporal awareness is something philosophers have written about for centuries. It makes you thoughtful, reflective, and occasionally unable to enjoy something simple without feeling the weight of its impermanence underneath it. 3. You feel the gap most acutely in social situations because small talk requires a kind of presentness you struggle to access. It's not that you're incapable of lightness. It's that your mind is almost always operating on a frequency that runs deeper than the conversation in front of you. You can participate, but you're rarely fully there. And that slight distance, that sense of watching rather than simply living, is one of the most consistent experiences reported by people who feel older than their age. 4. You have always been the one people come to. Not the one who goes to others, but the one others come to with the things they can't say anywhere else. The late night call. The confession that starts with, "I've never told anyone this." The friend who needs someone who won't flinch. You became that person young, probably younger than you should have. And while it gave you something real, a sense of purpose, a depth of connection, it also meant that your own interior life was rarely someone else's priority. You learned to hold others. Nobody quite learned to hold you. 5. You carry a loneliness that's difficult to explain because it isn't about being alone. You can be surrounded and still feel it. It's the loneliness of seeing more than the conversation accounts for, of knowing that what's being said is only a fraction of what's actually happening, of being present to a layer of life that most people around you haven't yet needed to visit. Researcher Brené Brown describes this kind of disconnection not as a social failure, but as a mismatch between the depth a person carries and the depth the environment around them is currently offering. 6. You are often more comfortable with endings than most people are. Change doesn't destabilize you the way it does others. You've already made a kind of peace with impermanence, not because you don't feel loss, but because your relationship with time has always included the awareness that things pass. That grief and growth are not opposites, that something ending doesn't mean something was wrong, that wisdom is almost always built on loss of some kind. Most people arrive at this understanding slowly, reluctantly, in their later decades. You have carried it most of your life. What all of this points to is not a disorder, not a deficit. It is a particular kind of soul that came into the world, already listening for something deeper. That found early on that surfaces weren't enough. That built, out of necessity or nature or both, an interior life rich enough to live in. The feeling of being older than everyone around you was never a sign that you were out of place. It was a sign that you were looking for a different kind of place entirely. And those places exist. They are just rarer and quieter and worth every bit of the waiting.